Well, hello. I really want to thank Globe and everyone for coming out today. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous, and usually I speak to. This is not, I've spoken to groups of this size before, but then there's something a little bit about being this personal for an extended period of time that makes you a little uncomfortable. And so I think that then there's also this, I really want to serve whoever's here, and so I want to kind of shed whatever I've been able to gain throughout the years, and so there's a little bit of that heaviness, oh, I hope I do well, and I hope you're able to take something. So I'm gonna kind of stabilize myself, tell myself that it's no biggie, we're just gonna have a talk, right? I'm gonna talk to you guys, and we'll go from there. And so I kind of want to open this up, me talking about my childhood, and what I'm going to do is kind of give you a summary of my life in 20 minutes. A summary of my life, and within different points was when I had some big takeaways, okay? And so for those of you that don't know me, I was born in Panama, and my family immigrated to the United States when I was 1 year old. And I grew up in a Spanish-speaking household, a Hispanic home, eating, tostones, patacones, arroz con pollo, pescado frito. I had the typical matriarch, abuela, who is getting people in line and can, cook for an army, really for a small town. And so, that's what I grew up with, right? She's always feeding you. You always have to eat more, and then something that's also kind of very Hispanic: extended family members living with us at different points of my life, and then my life or my upbringing has there's a lot of humor and then a lot of drama. Everything is big, and even the way that I teach, my hands, that's how my life has been. Everything's big, over the top, and so I'm gonna have to try to share those little moments. But the first biggest lesson that I learned was trying to figure out who I was, and that was hard for me because, like I said, I grew up being Latina. I grew up in a Spanish-speaking household, and so then when I would go out and meet other Latinos, I would speak to them, and then the first question is oh, where'd you learn Spanish? And you're like, I'm Hispanic. I'm from Panama, and you're oh, and so you got but it gets obnoxious because you're dealing with that all the time. Where'd you learn Spanish? I'm I'm Latina. I'm Hispanic. So that was one side of it. I was okay, I guess I'm not Latina enough, right? It must be the color of my skin that's contributing to this. I don't look typical enough. And so that's one side of it, that there was this insecurity there that I actually kind of developed a little bit of resentment towards Hispanics in general. I was And then on the other side, it's not an issue of the dominant majority, but African Americans, I have a particular story to share. So when I went to HBCU tour, and I was all excited, I was with my friends, and I was talking on the back of the bus, and this black girl was where are you from? You sound like a white girl. And I'm okay. And so that, in mixed with the Hispanic, I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like I was Latina enough. I never felt like I was black enough. And so I was in this space of okay, well, all right, I guess I just got to do me. I guess I have to be comfortable with this discomfort of not really fitting into these clear-cut boxes that society wanted or expected me to reflect. And so I guess that's my first biggest lesson. So I was you know what, I don't care what you expect or what you think I should look like or sound like. And I was I'm just going to be Kayra. I'm going to just be me, and I'm just going to allow that to just be my energy. And that's kind of worked for me. So I went through life just being and consistently people wanted to try to box me, put me in this space, and I even now I still have to kind of remind people okay, first of all, more than race, more than my cultural background. Like, my name is Kayra, or Dr. Merrills to many of you. And so, moving on to my next lesson. Well, actually, let's stay there. And so going back to the race thing, I'm going to bring up a little bit about my dad. So my dad even kind of wanted to inflict some of his insecurities about race and culture. And I remember having a conversation with him, and he was like, you know what, Kayra, life's going to be rough for you. And I'm like, why? Why is life going to be rough for you? And he's like, I got to do his thick accent. You're black, and you're Latina, and you're a woman. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Like, here, my own father is trying to give me wisdom, and also giving me this heaviness of like, life is going to be difficult because I have all of these things. But even then, I remember thinking like, wait, Dad, like, I know that you're trying to help me out, right? I get it, but like, doesn't that make me unique? Like, doesn't that make me special? Doesn't that give me a larger set of consciousness to kind of connect with different people? And to give some background about my dad, my dad, I think, was going through a number of the experiences, maybe to a larger extent of kind of what I was dealing with, like not fitting in. My dad is Afro-Latino, but he kind of looks like a dark-skinned Indian man, and with a thick, heavy accent. So, he was probably getting it from all ends, like people not really understanding who he was, or why did he have a thick accent. And so he carried, I think, a lot of pain. And a lot of that pain was inflicted on us growing up. And so I grew up, unfortunately, dealing with, domestic violence and seeing that, and also experiencing physical abuse from my father. But all that to say is that even when he said those things to me about, me apparently having the triple X, the strikes of being a black woman, of being Latina, I knew in my spirit that didn't make sense, right? And so I said, I didn't say anything verbally to him, but I remember saying, like, I think I got this. Like, I think this is going to be okay for me. So my next biggest lesson is do not, and although my dad was trying to give me wisdom, do not internalize other people's crap. And what my dad was, even though he was trying to be helpful, really what he had was pain. And I think in life you're going to always be around people that carry a lot of baggage, a lot of their own experiences, and they're trying to be helpful, but you really have to protect yourself. You have to protect and be mindful of, like, okay, yeah, he's helping me, but is this really going to help me grow? Is this going to just bog me down? And so I knew at that moment, and in my life, I'm always very weary about the type of consciousness that people are trying to share, because not all of it is healthy. So that's my second biggest lesson. So I guess I'm going to take you, so that was probably about, like 10, 11 years old. And middle school. So I'm going to take you through middle school. Middle school was a weird space for me. I was, as all middle schoolers are, I was awkward, but more awkward because my mother had passed away. And so my older sisters had already moved out, and I was living with my two brothers and my dad. And so a middle schooler, teenage, young adolescent girl without her mother, without big sisters, like, what happens when, you get your first period? What happens when? And so I had to kind of figure all of that out by myself. And then not only that, I kind of had these like weird tomboy tendencies. Like I would eat really fast, and I would speak kind of crass and say things that got kind of like boy talk or whatever. And so anyways, I kind of just didn't. I felt all weird. But transitioned into high school. I remember, now I'm kind of like switching up on you guys, going to talk about, so I remember I had this crush on this guy. And in high school, I was like, you know, gosh, that guy's really, really cute. But like, you know, he's dating this girl, but you know, she's not really like that tough. Like she's alright, you know. And I remember being like, you know, but what is it that he sees in her? And don't get me wrong, I didn't think I was that cute either, but I was like, but like, I mean, I kind of got her a little bit, right? And but this was a learning lesson for me. But I was like, you know what I do notice about this girl? She's confident as heck. Like she just walks through these. She might not be the this standard of beauty that society wants to categorize on people, but she knew she was beautiful. There was something about her walk. There was something that she believed about herself. And so I was like, okay, like maybe I need to just go home and tell myself that I'm pretty. Like maybe I need to just start talking to myself that way. And so I went home and I was like, okay, like you look good, like you're pretty, and so I started to say that. I didn't really believe it at first, right? So I was like, and I don't want you to think that I thought I was ugly, but I was like, oh, I'm an average girl. And so I started really saying it, and I swear, one day I woke up in the morning and I was like, oh my gosh, like my skin's glowing, like, oh my gosh, like, my body parts are coming in, like, and so all that to say is, that was my first moment of really believing in this whole concept about mindset. And I really think that there's this thing that once you make these shifts in your mind, it actually affects like the physical world, like, and so I started noticing changes in my own face and my own body, and as weird as that may sound, I believe it. And so I think that there's truth about what you believe, what you picture. Those all of those things have an impact. So that was, I didn't get the guy though, I didn't even pursue it. But I was starting to feel more beautiful. I started feeling more confident. And, in high school at 16 years old, I kept having trouble with my dad and just butting heads with him. And so I moved out of my house because I couldn't deal with it. It was a very combative relationship. And so I moved in with my sister. And, my sister was also worse than my dad. Not like that. She was just she took on that mother role, and she was extremely overprotective. So I grew up really sheltered. Like, nobody wanted to let me do anything. And I was a good girl, so I don't even know what they were worried about. But, so they kept me, like, reined in. Like, where are you? What are you doing? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not doing anything. And really, literally, not doing anything. Like I was on the cheerleading team. I was class president every year. Like I was Miss Spirit. And then after I left and went home, I'd literally just go to sleep, and I would do it all over again. But I didn't even have a social life. Like it was like a fake social life at school. Everybody loved me. But when I went home, it was like, okay, like, I'm gonna eat cereal, watch TV, like nobody, So anyways, all that to say that when I went to college, I was like, woof, like, I was so excited that I didn't have my sister and, just all those people micromanaging my life. Well, what happens when you have like a nerdy, formally awkward, like, I went to college, like, I was like, yes, like, I was like, yes. And so I was literally like, probably partying from like Wednesday to Tuesday, okay? Did you get it? Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm having so much fun. College is awesome. This is great. And then, so I remember spring semester, it's like close to the end of the year, my English class, and I like all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, crap, like I gotta turn in this paper. And so this paper is like 50 pages, okay? And I'm like, oh my God, how am I gonna turn in this paper? Like this is rough. And I'm like, so my roommate, her name was Tiffany, a former friend of mine from high school, and I was like, Tiffany, like, didn't you take this class last semester? And so Tiffany's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, can you hook me up with this paper? And so Timmy was like, yeah, no problem. And I'm like, oh, thank God. So, I was like, I switched some stuff around, and I was like, yes, I can get this paper in or whatever. And so I went to class, I turned my paper in, my paper, and my paper. And so I'm sitting on, and I don't know what the email sounds were. Maybe it was a ding or whatever. And so I get this email, and it was like, I need to see you from Dr. whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. So I go to this meeting, and I do my affirmations like, yeah, she just wants to like connect and talk about other things. Like, this is going to work out. And then Benev like, no, this might be bad. This might be bad. This might be bad. So like I go and I'm like, yes, doctor, whatever, like, do you, and she's like, she pulls out the paper. Did you write this paper? Yeah. So she's like, I don't think so, because in the works cited, there's an interview that you apparently did last semester, and you took this class now. Yeah. About that, so she's like, I'm submitting this to academic integrity, and you may potentially be kicked out of school. This was freshman year. So I was like, oh my God. So I like walk out, and I literally like felt like my world was like I'm going under. Like I'm like, this is, so I call my sister, and I'm like, I just cheated. I'm about to get kicked out of school. Like, this is about to be done for me. Like, I'm done. And so she's like, relax. And I'm like, no, they just submitted this. She's done. Like, I'm getting kicked out of school. So all that to say, I had to complete like a course. They had a jury set up. They had, a judge, coming against me about how this was wrong. And, I had to obviously vouch for what I had learned. Of course, I'm crying, like, please don't kick me out. Please, I won't do it again. And, they allowed me to stay at school. But, of course, I failed the course. So, biggest lesson there. Don't you? Honestly, that is one of the most embarrassing, vulnerable spaces that I'm putting myself in. But honestly, if I went through it, no one else in this room, no one should have to go through that. Like, honestly, because it's real. Like, I literally was about to be kicked out of school. I wouldn't be here today. You know what I mean? And so there's no reason why, if I did it and I suffered the consequences, no one else has to go through that. So my next space is, so after that, I met my husband. I fell in love with him, and but before I met my husband, I actually went to acting school, and I danced and I modeled, and I wanted to move to New York. I wanted to move to LA to pursue the arts, but I met Mario, and Mario fell in love with me, and so I was like, oh my gosh, screw acting, screw that, and Mario was gonna play in the NFL, and so I started like shifting or kind of neglecting my dreams, because I was like, I need to be, an NFL wife, and so that means that I need to pursue a career that's flexible, and so I started saying like, no, and I guess my biggest thing in this space, and it's my wisdom, is we really have to be careful about young love. You really have to be careful about falling so head over heels for someone that you begin to neglect some of the passions that you have about yourself. And I don't want you guys to get into a space of like, oh, like I'm resentful towards Mario, because at the same time, maybe I was too scared. maybe I was too scared to pursue those dreams at that time. But I do think, and I do know now, that those passions, those things that we loved about ourselves, don't go away. And so they're still something, they are still stuff that resonate within me now. And so my biggest lesson here is to love yourself, and love yourself enough that you do still give yourself the opportunity to pursue the things that you like. And so even within my marriage, one of the things that I really wanted to do was to pursue my PhD. And so I pursued my PhD even with my husband being like, are you really going back to school? And I'm like, yeah, I really think this is something that I want to do, and I'm passionate about it. And so he was like, okay. So again, I may have said no to other things, but within my relationship and within my marriage, I have loved myself enough to say that this is important for me. And so that is my next biggest lesson for you guys. While I worked on my PhD, that was one of the hardest academic experiences that I've gone through. I really felt like my high school, my undergrad, and even my master's, like, that was done with like average work ethic. Like, I was like, okay. But my PhD literally made me want to quit, like, all the time. Like, every time that I received, my dissertation, hundreds of drafts. And every time I would receive a copy back with all her comments and all her whatever red pen, not pen, but you know what I mean, like the things that she's fixing or whatever, like I literally always felt like throwing up. I always felt like I sucked. I always felt like I wasn't good enough. And so I remember thinking, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't, I don't think I can finish this degree. And so, but at the end of the day, I realized, like, you know what, this is really important to me. And so I just kept pushing. And so this lesson is about, pushing yourself, and pushing yourself in that space of discomfort, because that's really where you'll grow. And I always look at my PhD, my dissertation writing experience as one of the things that has really given me so much strength. And anytime I find myself in this space of like, oh, this is hard, I'm like, do you remember how long it took you to write that dissertation, or how long it took you to go through that process or that program? And so there's this victory, there's this sense of appreciation for your own strength and work ethic that you'll develop when you push yourself to that next limit. So that is that. After I got my PhD, I actually wanted to, work like analyzing data in a large school district. I wanted to be a professor. But, my husband got a job promotion 2.5 years ago. And the job promotion was here in St. Louis. And I was like, what, St. Louis? Like, where is, what? And so long story short, it happened really quick. Like, it was like, you know what, we're moving to St. Louis. And I had already moved, I had moved in the direction of these jobs. All of these jobs were already kind of like second interview, third interview, and I had been dreaming about those opportunities for a long time. And so now I had to kind of send those emails like, I can't, and so much sacrifice had, I just told you about grit and pushing yourself. And so now I had to send those emails saying like, no, I can't, we're moving. And I came into St. Louis. I interviewed with your principal, and that went really well. And all I could do was just have gratitude for the school district for taking me, for the kids that surprisingly I really liked and loved me, and because I was trying to get away from K through 12, but all of a sudden I'm getting sucked in with these kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't want to be here, but gosh, I'm receiving a lot of love. But I think that it came down to one of the main reasons is that I was really grateful because I came into no man's land, and which, you know, I didn't know where I was, but because of the embrace, the love that I received, and because I was grateful and all that, I really think that it just turned into this big, like, circle of love and abundance. And so that's my biggest lesson, is that there are going to be times where you are going to be like, wait, I don't want to be here, or wait, this doesn't fit my plan. But if you come from a place of positivity, if you come from a place of gratitude, then you will experience good things. Moving on, my next lesson is to be love, and to give love as much as you can. Like, one of the things that I've learned is that in life, your family members, you don't know how long they're going to be around. You don't know how long your friends are going to be around. And like I said, my mom passed away when I was young. My brother, I lost him 4 years ago. And so you really, because you don't know how much time we have on earth, you don't know how much time your family members or friends are going to be around you, you want to make sure that you have enough memories where you feel like you were able to connect in a loving way. And with that love, I really want to say that you want to try to love without expectations. And I know that's hard, but sometimes if you love with conditions, like, oh, I'm only going to love you if this, or I'm only going to love you, then you're always going to carry this, like, oh, you know, you let me down. And I'll take you back to my dad, right? My dad, I experienced some tough things, you know, under his upbringing, but I still love my dad, and I still give him a lot of love, and I think that that's healthy, because if I carry this, like, hate because of the things the way that I grew up, I think that I would be heavier. I would be filled with resentment, and I wouldn't be me. And so that's my wisdom to you, is that, you know, even when you experience things that are difficult from those people that you may love, you want to try to let that go. Let that go as best as you can, because it really, it was for them to learn. It was for them to grow, not for you. And my last lesson for today's words of wisdom is don't be scared to fly. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm in a space where, you know, I'm trying to fly a little bit. I feel like my whole life I've been taking steps in the direction of my dreams, and I'm finally able to feel comfortable of taking myself into this space of, like, you know what, like, Kayra, I think it's ready. I think it's ready. And so one of my biggest things is, you know, we all in here have different dreams. We have these crazy ideas. And I want you to recognize that if you have that dream, it's in there for a reason. And I know it's going to be hard to listen to it, right? Because you have ego, you have parents, you have teachers, you have all these people that are going to give you, you know, their idea of what's best for you. But what you need to understand, that if it's in your consciousness, if it's something that is there, it's there because you need to respect it. And that's called your voice, right? And we all have voices that we need to submit to. And it's going to be kind of hard to listen to it or understand what it's saying. But eventually you'll be like, oh, okay, that's what I really want to do. And so my biggest thing is, you know, step into to your greatness. Be your biggest fan. Really listen to what you like and to what you're passionate